Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Jon Witt, and this is a handstand prep class. So if you've never taken a handstand before, there's many different stages to that, and I'll give you proper steps. And maybe at times you're just watching, and the good thing is you could review any of these videos through my YouTube channel. So if you're not a subscriber, you could subscribe. And then you would be updated when we post new videos. And I'm giving new shorter clips, and that could be something that could really help you in terms of developing a handstand. There's a lot of different things that go into it, and as you do it more, you'll really see what's missing that could help you get into having a handstand. I think a good goal to have is 10 seconds in the middle of the room. So if you're not there yet, it's okay. I think initially what's probably the best thing is that you're willing and you want to try it, and not being so concerned with the number, even though I just gave you that goal, is that if you're working at it, you'll certainly get it. It just takes, quite a bit of practice for most people to attain that. So if you didn't know, I have classes throughout the week. I have 3 Zoom classes. I have one Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. Eastern Time to 7:45. I have a class Wednesdays, and it's a therapeutic class, and that's from 5 to 6 Eastern Time in the evening. And then I have a class on Sundays, and that's from 10 to 11 o'clock, and all those classes are on Zoom. So to register for those classes, it's jonwittyoga.com. And then you can see the information in terms of how to make a donation. So if you're donating to my cause, it's helping me teach others who cannot afford yoga at this time. So it really helps me, and I greatly appreciate the support. And if you can't support financially, please share my information, and then it just helps me build my channel through my platforms, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. So you don't need a lot of equipment. I have 2 blocks. Those are great for forward bending. It's good in building strength in the hands and the wrists. I'm using a wall today in terms of getting you up. There's days that I have you kick up. You could certainly do that. And there's days that I usually walk people up the wall, which I think is a better way in building strength and building better lines within your handstand. So we're going to start the class in an actually we'll sit. I'm going to sit on my knees and sitting back on my feet. So I'm sitting back on my toes just to stretch out the feet. And then I'm going to get into your hands, your wrists. So then untuck the toes and sit back on the heels. So as I sit back on the heels, a full flexion of the feet. This is where you could be using the block, right? It's always a question in terms of leverage, how much leverage your body should be using, or how much you should be applying. So I'm going to come onto my hands, and I'm going to tuck the toes and just sit back on the feet, but just move the weight around and see how it is in terms of flexibility of the feet and the toes, and this will really help with squatting. So I'm going to untuck the toes and sit back on the feet. And then when I sit back on the feet, this is typically easier, and that's why I'm in this position, but again, you could be on blocks. I'm going to just do a different warm-up of the wrists, just to give you some different ways of doing it. I typically do it on my hands and my knees. That's one way. You could be using a wall, and I'm doing it where I'm open, so there's no real contact, right? So I'm going to take my arms out to the sides, and then I'm flexing the hands down. So I'm just getting a full range of motion into the joint. And then I'm going to flex the hands back. So this is wrist flexion or extension. And then I'm flexing, right? And then I'm pulling the fingertips back towards the shoulders. And you can kind of feel, and you can move at your own rhythm. You don't have to move at my pace. I'm going to take the hands up. And what I'm feeling for is what is kind of holding my hands back in terms of flexibility. So I'm going to flex them back. Pushing in, and this is really the handstand here. This is what you need more of, but the counter of pulling the hands down is really going to help with opening up the space between the bones, the joint, and that's what we use for counter. And then you can take the arms down, then I'm just going to interlace the fingers, and I'm just going to circle the hands, and there might be some cracking or popping, right? You can change the direction. These are really nice. These are very gentle, and it'll help support, again, just being in more of our weight on our hands and on our wrists. So just open and close the hands, and then just circle or just create a wave with the fingers, which is, I'm not doing a whole lot of these, but these are things that I use throughout the week quite extensively. So I'm just moving the hands into a wave, and that'll help again. And a lot of it is being more sensitive and understanding how to distribute the weight in the hands. So just bring the backs of the hands together and just drop the elbows down. And it's a good passive way to help open up the wrists. And then I'm going to bring the hands down. You can open and close the hands. So come into an all-four position. And then in all fours, just have the hands underneath the shoulders and press to the hands and round the back. So I'm going to let the chest come down, letting the shoulder blades kind of come in, and then I'm pressing. So about 3-5 seconds of a hold. And then let the chest drop down. These are different than cat-cow. So, in yoga we use those. Not that that's bad, but just with the chest coming down and in, you're retracting the shoulders. So shoulder blades are moving together. And the last time, you're going to round through the shoulders. As you round through the shoulders, we're going to come up into our first plank. So grip the floor, lift the knees off the floor, and create more of a hollowed action through the front of the body. And I say this, if you're really integrated and you don't have a lot of strength, this can get difficult quite quick. And that's not bad. That's not a bad thing at all. But this will help you in some ways. You can come down with the knees. In some ways, go back to tucking the toes and sit back on the heels. In some ways, plank is actually more difficult than a handstand. So you could schedule your practice like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm going to do plank work, and then say Tuesday, Thursdays, I'm going to do wrist work and core work, right? There's many ways to kind of get you into eventually doing the handstand on your own. So say you're not really confident doing full wall work or kick-ups. There's a lot of different things you could do to get you to that point. So untuck the toes and just sit back on the feet again. And as you're sitting back, again, kind of see how much weight you actually need to be applying in the feet. I'm going to come forward now, and when I come forward, I'm going to come into that hollow position with my shoulders. So I'm going to push my hands on the floor. I'm going to round my shoulders, and then I'm going to lift my knees off the floor. So I'm just pushing, and say plank is a better action, right? You can do that. I'm going to come down with the knees, and then just make it a little bit longer, and I'm going to come up into plank. So the combination will help one another, right? So I'm going to push through the hands, round the shoulders, lift up into plank. But this time I'm going to do it on the tops of my feet. So it's a little different. Right? A couple deep breaths here. And then I'm going to tuck the toes and pull back with the hips. So pedal the legs out, especially if you haven't warmed up. As you pedal the legs out, reach through the heels. I don't have to get all the way down, but it helps in stretching out the legs more. And then what I'm going to do is just bend the knees, but trying to keep the ribs in. So you don't want to be fully into your chest and your shoulders. You want to be more neutral in terms of like learning your handstand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk my hands back towards my feet. So I'm just kind of in this position. But the walking back is really going to help with going up the wall. So I'm going to walk forward back into plank. So I'm coming back into plank. And then walking back into my forward fold. And like I said, this will help with getting you to walk up the wall with your feet. So I'm going to walk forward with my hands. And then when I walk forward, I'm going to turn my hands out. So we're going to try to do the scat push-ups in plank. And if it's just too difficult, just do them on your knees, right? That's how we did them before. but especially if you don't have a lot of flexibility in the wrist, it's easier to do with the hands turned out, if you didn't know. So I'm going to have my hands turned out. I'm going to use my fingertips. I'm going to lift up into a plank here, but I'm going to let the chest kind of drop down. So letting my chest drop down. And then I'm going to press, right? Holding. Again, 3 seconds I think is a good hold. And then I'm going to lower the chest down. So these are good in terms of, like, say you just don't like holding a plank statically. And then pressing. But the press is really ultimately what you need to eventually get, like I said, the 10-second hold of a handstand. So let the chest drop down. Press back up. Right? Shoulder blades are spread here. Last time, let the chest drop down. And then press. Really press through the hands, the fingertips. And then come back down with the knees. Have the toes tucked. And just sit back on the heels. So as you sit back on the heels, just take the arms forward, and as we did before, it's just a different angle. I'm going to bring the hands down. So this is, again, to counter the hands. If you needed more leverage, you could hold the hand. A fist is more of a stretch. So it's kind of nice with either one. So I'm going to go to here just as a visual, but I'm going to go back to the active way of doing it. So I'm flexing. And then I'm extending. So I'm flexing. And then I'm extending. All right. And then I'm bringing the hands down. So we're going to get into untucking the toes and sitting back on the feet. Like I said, I do some squatting like later in the class, like doing like some Cossack stretching. So that's not like you have to do it, but if you were doing just a handstand practice, what you could do is you could layer it and doing progressive stretching or more like positions that you'd like to ultimately develop. So in yoga, not that it's a bad approach, is that you're usually doing a sequence of poses, then a handstand, and then a sequence of poses, and then a handstand. It's good if you don't have a lot of strength, but I find it's not enough attention into developing handstand, and that's partially why I've seen people over the years, I mean, many years later, they don't really have a handstand yet. Which again is not a negative thing, but if you really want to develop it, I would focus more on it. So come back to having your hands underneath you, push through the hands around the shoulders, lift up into plank, and then we're going to walk back again. As you walk back, I'm going to walk forward. So I've said this before, pushing, like push-ups, will help you with handstands. And there's times that I teach in this class, pike push-ups, which are way more difficult. So the first push-up I'm going to do is I'm going to do a negative. So I'm slowly lowering, and then when I come down, I'm just all the way down. And then when I come down, I'm going to take the arms forward. So I'm going to stretch out a bit of the shoulders before we get back up. So have the arms forward, just straight overhead. Keep the ribs in and lift the arms off the floor. So lift the arms away from your mat, away from the ground, and try to lift and hold that, and then bring it down for a few seconds. You could turn the head. These can be quite difficult, so maybe don't get off the ground just yet. Have your hands wider than your shoulders. That'll help. So if you can't have your hands as wide as the shoulders, and take the arms off the floor again. So keep the ribs pulling away from the floor. Elevate through the arms. Really lift through the strength of your shoulders, and then bringing the arms down. Now take the hands underneath the shoulders. You don't have to do pressing, but you did want to get some extra work in. I'm going to stay on the tops of my feet, press through the hands. I'm going to lift to the height of my elbows and lifting straight up into plank. So I'm holding plank again. Couple deep breaths here. And then I'm going to tuck the toes and walk the feet back. So as I walk the hands back towards the feet, again, I'm back into a forward fold. Walk forward again, and we're going to do a push-up kind of in between. So I'm going to lower the height of my elbows, or lower, pressing up, and then walking back. So just some conditioning, which ultimately will help you get into maybe you're in a forward fold, maybe you're squatting as I am. Not that you have to squat, but the conditioning will help. Bent arm strength will help straight arm strength. Straight arm strength is typically a little bit easier. So like I said, you could kind of schedule doing more bent arm strength things at least twice a week. And that could be of various things, and I could help you with that if you're ever interested to work with me privately. Could be me meeting with you online, but it could also be like I could just write out programs for you, and that's a better way, because we would just keep raising the bar for you to get into a stronger practice. These leg classes are really what people prefer, which is good, but if it's not getting you over the hump, we'd have to either scale it back or scale it up. So come back into a plank again. You just do one more push up. So lower to the height of your elbows and press straight back up. So what's lacking in coming down is really the control of the scapula. So if you don't have that, that's why you'll see people crash when they come down. And it's not bad crashing, right? It's just a matter of getting the control, which will help support you in holding your handstand. So just walk the hands underneath the shoulders, tuck the toes, hold the plank, and then just go back into down dog and walk the feet forward. As you walk the feet forward, I'm going to walk my hands back. I'm going to slowly roll myself up to standing. And then as I stand, I'm just going to stick my butt out and then tucking the tailbone underneath. This is something that's not really utilized enough for people. So stick the butt out and then tuck it underneath. As you tuck it underneath, you'll get, like a good handstand, your legs should get stronger, right? Your hips should get stronger from a good handstand. So stick the butt out. And there's people that just do handstands or arm balances. Not that I recommend that, but you can get incredibly strong just using, like a handstand practice. So just stick the butt out and then bringing it down. The reason why you might not want to do a handstand only is because you might need diversity, right? Which I think is good. But like I said, say that's what you want. It's good to focus on that. So just one last time, stick the butt out and then tucking the tail and strengthening the legs. So I'm going to strengthen the legs a little bit in between, which will help ultimately getting the lower body to be more active. I'm not going to kick up today, but it'll eventually help you to kick up, right? The combination of wall walks and kick ups, I think, is a good combination. So I'm just going to have my right foot backwards, just tucked. I'm just using it for balance. And then I'm coming down into a single leg squat, and then I'm going to push back up. I'm going to slowly, slowly, slowly lower. And I'm going to drive up. And that's really ultimately the kick up. So I'm going to slowly, 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 slowly lower. And then bringing back up. And then one more time. Coming back down, nice and slow. And then driving up, almost like hopping. If you couldn't jump, those are precursors to learning how to jump. So I'm going to step the left foot back. As I step it back, lower, lower. My stance is pretty short, so it loads up the leg more. You may need ultimately a longer stance because of your knees. So as I step back, I want to get the leg to be active, and you can fully just rely on the flexibility of the joints, which isn't necessarily bad, but we're doing this to help you get stronger. So drive through the right foot, slowly, 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 slowly lower. Drive it up, and then one more time, slowly lower. What you can do is you can find an angle that you're weak in and just hold that. So you couldn't squat down as low as I am. That's what you could use, and then drive it back up. So we're going to go into our first handstand where we're walking up the wall. So if you can't do that walk back like from down dog, hands to feet, but what you can do is not walk all the way back, and I'll teach that, I'll say that as I'm doing it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk back halfway, which is a good angle to have. But then if I can walk close to the wall, the further away from the wall I am, the less I want to get my chest to the wall. the closer I get my hands to the wall, the more I want to get my chest. So they say toes and nose. That's a good thing to kind of keep in your brain when you're doing it, so that that's the line that you want when you're very close to the wall, but you got to be careful. And this is something that I highly recommend is don't hold it too long. You hold it too long, you won't be able to come out. You won't be able to kick out or whatever. And that's how someone could get hurt. Never seen it, but I know that that's what would happen if someone held it too long. So come down onto your hands and your knees, protract through the shoulders, and work your feet up the wall. So you're going to walk. My hands are down, and check out your hands, because your hands sometimes are too wide. This is really common for people. No one's shoulders are as wide as a yoga mat, and if your hands are that wide, it's very difficult to support the weight. All right? So I'm going to push through the hands, round through the shoulders. Just move the weight around. Just kind of see how you hold the weight. And then as you round through the shoulders, you're going to take your strong leg up, whichever leg that is, up to the wall. So the first one I'm going to do, I'm just going to walk back up a little bit, and then I'm going to have you come out, just so that you know how to come out, right? So press through the hands, press through the shoulders, then bring that leg up. And maybe this is what you're doing, right? You're holding this. But I'm going to shift the weight into my right hand, and then back into my left, and then walk back, right? But I'm going to walk forward, 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 and then down. So that could be your practice, right? It doesn't have to be a full, but remember, don't rely on your wrists. Don't rely so much on your hands. Rely on your shoulders. So get really strong through the back of the shoulders. So round your shoulders. Keep that, and that's what will help you come up. Again, all the way to the wall is great, but maybe it's not happening today, right? So bring your hands down. I'm going to do 2 of these. I'm going to walk back, hold it for, say, 10 seconds, something like that, then walk back out, then walk back in, and then walk back out, right? I think 2 is a good number to start with. Maybe it's only 1 that you're doing, right? So bring your hands down underneath your shoulders. Press through the hands, press through the shoulders. Take either your right or your left leg up. Push, push, push. Then shift the weight right to left as you shift it back. Now, if I'm here, I don't want to get to the wall, right? I'm not that close to the wall. I'm probably about 2 feet away from the wall. But if I'm going closer to the wall, I'm going to walk it in, and then my ribs are in, my head is going to the wall, but I don't want to get my chest to the wall. That's a big common mistake that people teach. So move the weight into the right hand, move it into the left, move it forward, hold, 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 right? Then walk back. Feet wider might be easier. Pull in. And your shirt might be getting in the way of probably the most difficult thing is figuring out your shirt. So bring the weight into the right hand, into the left, walk it back out, and then bring the feet down. So as you come down, either come into a squat or a kneeling position. So if you can squat, fantastic. And then just as we were before, flex through the wrists. Or just, I guess this is more extension, and then flexing. And then extending, and then flexing, and then extending. So have your hands beside you, and just move the knees down into the floor. And as you're on your toes, adjust the feet, adjust the wrists, sit nice and tall. I'm going to mix in some back bends in between, just because, like I said, this is something that I think is really helpful as you do handstand, but then you do more a particular pose, or as some people would call it, progressive stretching, right? So I'm going to be up on my knees. And as I'm up on my knees, I'm turning to my right. Now I could hold a block, right, to touch the foot. So you had long legs and a short torso. You wouldn't be able to get to the foot just yet, just because of your anatomy, right? So come up, rotate to the right, reach for the right foot. Bring yourself up, rotate to the right, reaching for the right foot. You want to go up more than anything. And then bringing yourself back up. And then going to the right. So going in and out of the pose is probably going to be, it's more progressive in the sense because you're really doing the transition. The transition is where you're going to get the most weight. As you hold it, your body's going to adjust. Your nervous system's going to adjust. It's almost easier. Bring yourself up. So just untuck the toes and sit back onto the feet. Your legs could be together, they could be apart. I'm just on my feet just to create more flexion within them and just to give you a little bit of a break between the back bending. So come up with the hips. You want to be extending the hips forward. You're in a posterior tilt as you back bend, and then tucking the toes and then looking over your left shoulder. And maybe this is all that you're doing, right? But if you can reach back, you could touch the heel. Again, you could have a yoga block at various levels to reach the heel. But a lot of times people move the hips back just to grab the foot, which is okay because you're not going to get hurt. But it's very difficult to develop more extension. And you don't really need a deep back bend to develop a handstand, but like I said, I think a more well-rounded practice is better than just being, having a handstand, right? So turn to the left, reach for the foot, bring yourself back up, and untuck the toes again and sit back on the feet. So if you're really tight through the shoulders, it's going to be hard to extend the arms overhead. It's partially why I'm doing this, but we try another handstand. So you can bring the hands down, you can walk the feet up. So you prefer kicking up, of course, kick up. If there's nothing wrong with kicking up, it's just when people kick up and their back is facing the wall, it almost gives you a false illusion of the alignment. So it's a big reason why people always fall forward when they're learning their handstands is that the shoulders are exceeding the hands, the wrists. And they always fall to the right or the left. With a wall position, in my opinion, it's creating a better line. So bring the hands down, round through the shoulders. We're gonna again we'll go for two. We'll try to go for two, right? So maybe you just go up and you create a 90-degree angle. That's a great thing to do. So bring the hands down, round through the shoulders, and then take your left or right leg up, press through the hands, move the weight back. Now again, I'm not all the way back for a beginner. Here's a great line, right? This is a really good line to have. But as you get more experience, walk it back further and think nose to the wall and toes, but no rib cage. You don't want the ribs to come forward. Now walk it forward, and maybe you're walking all the way out and you're done, right? But I'm gonna walk it back up again. So walk back. Press really, really hard through the hands, right? Get the shoulders to support you. Keep the ribs in. Then walk back out. So walk the feet, the hands forward. Shift the hips, which shifts the weight. So if I have too much weight in one hand, I won't be able to pick it up. So that's partially why it's so difficult for you to maybe walk back. If you can't walk back, it's all right. Over time, you'll be able to walk up the wall, closer to the wall, get yourself up. So come forward on your hands and knees, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to use a block or blocks for my transition. So my hands will be underneath my shoulders. As I'm on my hands and I'm gripping the block, which will build better strength in the hands. Not that you have to do it this way, right? But round through the shoulders, come up into plank, and hold the front of your body into a straight line. Just kind of see how you hold your weight, and that might tell you why you always fall to one direction, right? So tuck the toes, pull back through the hips, and as you pull back through the hips, keep the belly, keep the ribs in, just as a reminder for your handstand. Not that it's bad to sink down in the shoulders, that definitely has its place, but take your right leg up to the ceiling and just moving the right leg into the chest Try to pull it in. So this hip compression will help with eventually, pressing into handstand, right? So take the right leg up and step the right foot forward into a low lunge and drive through your right heel. So get your glutes involved. Like I said before, for handstanding, you're in a posterior tilt. Most people need more of a posterior tilt. So bring yourself up into a high lunge, and in a high lunge, you can open and close the hands. Right? So as you open and close the hands, right, just to get the hands and the wrist involved, and just to give you some variety, or just to give you some different positions, right? Because I'm going to bring my hands down. I can move my blocks off this side, but I'm going to get my right elbow to the floor, right? I'm just going to get my shoulders more involved, and then taking through the right arm. And the left hand could be down, but just press through the right foot. You try to pull the hips back in space, and then bring the right hand down and sit the hips back. It doesn't have to be all the way. Now, if I couldn't get my chest to my leg, I could fill the gap with a block, right? I could get my torso to a block. But what you want to be doing is lifting the leg from the strength of your hip. So to pull it in, right? And this is, again, more for like pressed handstands, but the stretching of the back of the leg will help with you getting your hands down, which will help with kicking up, right? So take your left hand to the outside of your right ankle and keep lifting it. I mean, you could work towards lifting the leg. That has something which is like layered. It's beneficial. And then come forward, and as when you come forward, take the back knee off the floor. Bring the right elbow, the shoulder to the floor. You'll need a higher surface to go further if you're that type of person, right? So take the right arm up to the ceiling so the right arm is high. And then bring the right hand down and step back with blocks or not. I'm going to step back into plank. I'm going to lower to chaturanga. I'm going to untuck the toes and lift up into an up dog. Right. Pull back through the hips, pull back through the thighs. Take the left leg up to the ceiling so the left leg is up, and then bring the knee and nose together. Really try to pull it in. Again, from the strength of your hip, and then step the left foot forward. So as the left foot is forward, drive through the left heel. You'll feel, the glute working, which is essentially what you need. And then I'm going to bring my right hand on the inside of my left foot, take the left arm up to the ceiling. So again, the camel that we used earlier, twisting will help with that if you didn't know. So bring the left elbow on the inside of the left foot. Get wider through your thighs, get wider through your lower back. Then take the left arm up to the ceiling. So the left arm is high and the right leg is active, right? Bring the left hand down and just use the left foot to bring yourself up. So use your front leg to get yourself up. Take the arms overhead. I'm in an open and close action of the hands, which will build up better strength in the hands, the wrists. A couple deep breaths. Think I'm standing in front of you, and you want to keep your ribs away from my hand, which is essentially what we did with the wall, right? And then bringing the hands down, bringing the back knee down, and then sitting the hips back, and the foot could be pointed or flexed. Big common question with people is, should I sit back all the way? Well, if you're focusing on the back leg, definitely. It's not wrong. If you're really focusing more on the front leg, it's not all the way back, right? So I'm lifting my front leg to my torso. I'm trying to lift it up here. I'm going to take the right hand on the outside. Again, fill the gap between your upper body and your leg, and then that'll help you create better integration. You'll be able to pull it up and in. So take one more breath here, and then bring it forward. Come onto the hands or the blocks, and step back into a plank. So protract through the shoulders, lower to a chaturanga, and then coming up into an up dog. So sometimes people say, hey, your plank looks like this, and it's not aesthetically appeasing. I'm using it more as a way of integrating and help you in getting, again, the hands in. So pull back up into a down dog. So pull back, and then walk the feet forward and walk the hands back towards the feet. Just be in a passive forward bend. It could be rounded if you have a healthy spine. You have some herniation history. You'd want to extend. It's really common is lower back stuff, right? So then maybe not folding all the way in. So roll yourself up if that's good for you. You could have your blocks, off to the side if you are using them. So roll yourself back up, be in a standing position. So take your feet a little bit wider than, say, your shoulders, and turn the feet out and bend the knees and be in a posterior tilt. So lift through the pubic bone, because people will kind of stick their butt out in a horse stance, and they can sit here for a really long time. But as you're using your pelvis, like getting it more level, you'll feel a much greater exposure into the inner thighs, which is kind of like typically like the last piece for people. So take the arms out to the side, have your thumbs up, and rotate your thumbs back. Just move from your shoulders. Don't move from your wrists, don't move from your elbows. Just isolate the shoulders. So thumbs are turning down, backs of your hands are turning towards your device, whatever you're using, and then rotate it back. So the shoulders are rotating back, and then just bringing the arms down. Now you can make it a little wider, right? Because I'm gonna get into like more of a Cossack stretch. But as you're in here, you're pushing the legs apart. So take a couple deep breaths, bring yourself back up, and just bring the feet back underneath you. And I'm gonna give you the Hawaiian shaka. So my thumb is into my hip, and then the pinky is just to create some space. I'm gonna lift my left leg up into my foot, like I'm pulling it up, and then I'm bringing it down. You could use a yoga block if you can't reach the foot. Passive flexibility is definitely valuable, right? But getting more strength into the hamstring, again, will help you kicking up. So bring the left leg down, take the right leg up. So I'm just, and it's not so much that I have to touch it, right? It's just a way to squeeze in more and then bring it down. And again, I could have holding a block to get that contact or that point. And again, great to hold the shin, great to hold the foot, and then bring the right leg down. Now take your feet out pretty wide here, and there's ways of measuring like Cossack stretches or in yoga skandasana, right? There's ways of measuring it, but I'm more of like, get a sense if it's too short or too long. The feet are turned out. I'm gonna go into my right side, and I'm not going as low as I can, but I'm pushing my legs apart. So with these types of positions, you're, so to speak, going out of alignment. Right? I'm gonna sit possibly lower. If I wanna target more my inner thigh, my foot is turned in. I wanna focus on my hamstrings, my foot is turned up. I'm gonna bring myself up, and then I'm going to the left, but I'm doing it this way just more of, rather than just biting all of it off in one chomp, right? You wanna kind of see where you should be today. You have good flexibility. You might actually just want to hold a high position, right? Rather than sitting low. I mean, sitting low feels great, right? It's great to go beyond that. Again, I could turn the foot up if I want to target the hamstring. I'm gonna bring myself up. Just take a couple breaths in an upright position. We're gonna go, I'm gonna do repetitions per side, but if you didn't have a lot of strength, go opposite sides, and that'll help you more, because then you won't lose good form, right? So I'm gonna sit into my right leg. I'm gonna elevate my right heel. I'm pressing my thighs apart. If I wanna focus more on my left leg, I'm reaching, right? So often people just sit into the right side, and then it can be really not so great for the knee. So drive through the right foot, bring yourself up. I'm gonna sit low again. You don't have to sit as low as I am, but push the legs apart. Try to keep yourself upright. Drive through the right foot. I'm gonna go over to the right one more time. So going into the right, sitting possibly lower, and then driving up, and then going to the left side. So I'm gonna go to the left, Again, lower isn't necessarily better. So you could use a block to sit on. You could elevate the left heel. I'm going to the left if you're going to the right. Whatever knee is bent is the elevated heel. Bring yourself up. Slowly, slowly go to the left. Again, your legs should get tired. Not that we're going to fatigue them, or to failure, right? It's just, you want stronger arms, stronger legs. You should, there should be a level of fatigue. So press yourself up and then go to the left. And I'm a right-handed person, so my left leg is stronger in a lot of ways than my right. So you got to kind of depend on or develop which side is weaker if you're interested in that. So bring yourself up, and as you come up, just take the feet out into a wide position and focus on more of the inner thighs, which is, I'm just mixing in, because again, I'm not just going to do handstands. If you had the strength to do that, we can, but I'm just kind of layering it. So bring the hands down and think that the legs are lifting up and out. So as your legs are lifting up and out, you get much more space and strength. You could get lower. It's not bad to get the head down. It's usually how we teach it in yoga, but focusing more on the inner thighs and the hips. So toe heel the feet in, a little bit closer. And what you're going to do is just step the feet back into a wide position so that you can squat if you can. But the widening of the legs should be a big part of helping to develop your squat. There's more specific things that you can do for your feet. But just a lot of it pertains to the hips. So take a couple deep breaths. And then what we're going to do is do one more set of the wall walks, if you can. So if it's just like, I can't get myself up for it, you do have to get that drive going. And, like I said, you're exerting more effort, and then you get conditioned to it. Your mind, your body gets conditioned to it, and then it actually gets easier and more efficient. And that's when you scale it up again, right? So come down onto your hands and your knees, round through your shoulders, right? Make the front of your body small and compact. And we'll go for 2 again, right? So push with the hands around the shoulders, walk back to the wall, pick one leg up, right? Really push here. So if you're not really pushing enough, that's where it gets dangerous. That's where it gets really complicated. So just get the understanding of how to push, because you're ultimately supporting all of your weight, right? So I'm walking the right leg up. So you got to transfer the weight side to side. So take the opposite leg up, move the weight back. Now if I'm here again, I'm not getting my ribs to the wall. I'm just straight, right? But if I am walking further back in, then I'm going to get my toes and my face to the wall. Push through your hands. Walk the hands forward, right? Hold, and walk back up. And holding, straight arms. And then walk it back forward. Slow. And then come back and come into a squat or come into a seated position. And then once you're squatting, right, just go back to flexing. Right? And then you may want more leverage. So the backs of my hands are together, my elbows are down. Right? Just getting more space into the wrists. Take 3 deep breaths. And then come back onto your hands and your knees. And just to kind of see, because it might be a little easier for you, we're going to go back into camel. But like I said, I can't reach for my foot, I'd use a block to grab the feet. So come up onto the knees, be up on the heels, turn. The majority of your spine rotates. Majority of the spine. Everything above the lower back rotates. So this should be a lot easier on your back than going back classically. Not that a classic back bend is bad, right? But you gotta think of like all the joints want to turn for the most part. And even the neck, lower back, it has some capacity to rotate, but not a whole lot. But I'm rotating, and if you prefer going back and grabbing both feet, of course do that. So I'm going to rotate to the left, and the foot is just a way to measure it. You want to keep your hips forward. You want to keep your glutes engaged. You want to strengthen the front of your body, right? So as you're back, you're rotating. And I'm going to turn, and then I'm going to come down. I'm going to untuck the toes and sit back on the feet. So there's ways of, I think Supta Virasana is such a great way to create extension. I'm going to do it from a kneeling position. I'm going to take my knees out wide. And with my knees out wide, I'm going to sit back. Now, taking the hand further back away from you has great benefits into the shoulder girdle. So it's not so much that you have to stay close. Longer might actually be more beneficial. Now I'm going to go to the elbow, my right elbow, and then I'm going to lift the elbow. So it's good to come down for a few seconds, and it's good to hold statically. But for someone this is unbearable, it's good to come in and out of it, which sometimes is viewed as like the worst thing ever, but it's actually a good approach. And like I said earlier in classes, the transition of getting into it is really, there's more leverage. Right? At some point I get low and my body gets comfortable. My nervous system gets used to it. When you come out of it, it's like learning it all over again. And that's why I'm doing it this way. Bring yourself back up. Go to the left. As you go to the left, stretch the left arm away from your feet. And if it's hard to get to the elbow, you may need to move your left hand further away from your body. Like I could twist all day long in this direction. Like literally, I could be here all day. Other side, way different. So that's something that you may need to consider in terms of how you're doing your yoga. So come up onto the elbow, drop, slowly go to the elbow, so specific into the thoracic. Bring yourself back up, go back to the elbow, bring it back up, and then last time come down. So think your right shoulder, your right scapula is touching the ceiling. Think your left scapula is going beneath the floor, whatever you're on today. And then bring yourself back up. And then when you come up, just stretch the legs forward. As you stretch your legs forward, just circle your feet, only your feet. Try not to move your legs at all as you circle your feet. Circle around in the opposite direction. All right? And then just point and flex the feet. Try to get the soles of the feet together. Hard to do, but again, it'll help with squatting. Then undo the feet. Take the legs out into a wide position. So with the legs out wide, we're not going for the middle split. Not to say that that's bad, but you want to be driving the legs down or think that you're lifting them up. Right? It's either or out, right? But all the integration should help you in sitting. You have a difficult time sitting on the floor. It's great to sit on a higher surface like a blanket. So you want eventually you have your pelvis move forward. So I'm moving my pubic bone into the block. Getting my pelvis to move forward is going to target more of the inner thighs and help me come forward. And going to the sides are typically going to be easier. So go out to the left, right? Make the left side shorter. Continue to make the right side longer, right? Use more effort here. I love positions like this because you can really use your strength to help develop your range, right? So take the right elbow down to the floor where the hand's behind the head. And then rounding the shoulders will help in opening up the body, like uncorking it. So I'm going to drop the elbow and then lift from the elbow and turn. And as I'm, turning or twisting, trying to move my chest towards the ceiling, then the foot is available, right? As you develop the shoulders, and you can grab the foot. Bring yourself up and then go out to the right side. As you go out to the right, drive the legs apart, lift the legs up. So when someone sees someone doing yoga, they just look at it as just being, passive, which can be done, right? But if you're active, you're taking more initiative of your own well-being. And if it hurts, then we're probably using too much of a good thing, right? So I'm going to bring my hand behind my head. I'm going to drop my elbow. And then I'm going to take it up, lifting. And this, again, the lower you get, the easier it is to grab the foot with both hands, and that has its place too. But I'm just using the elbow as a reference, and then I'm going to bring myself up. So let's just say it's unbearable. Bring your feet back together. Get your feet together, get your knees wide, take a break, take the legs out wide if you're up for that. And I see people, and they're like, again, 10 years, they're unable to come forward. So what you're going to need is an extra weight, not like a plate or a dumbbell or a kettlebell or something like that, just an extra little bit of weight. So arms wide is some extra weight, and it's much easier on your lower back than what I'm going to use next. But I'd start here, and then when I come out of it, if I do take my hands behind my head, or if I do take my arms behind my head, I may want to go back to having my arms out wide to protect my back and coming up. So the more flexibility you develop, it's got to be careful with how much weight you're using and how you get out of positions. Someone that's really stiff, it's less likely that they would get hurt. I'm going to take my hands behind my head and then lifting my thighs, lifting my legs. I want to go forward from not my elbows, but from my navel. I want my navel to come forward. Still, if that's not enough weight, take the arms overhead. Hands can be wider than the shoulders. All these great ways. You just got to find what really is better for you. Now, if I do come back up, I'm going to take the arms out wide, and then I'm going to come up. I'm going to come forward one more time. I'm going to take the hands behind the head. Lift your legs up away from the floor. So really drive them up. Literally like you're in like Titibhasana. So moving the belly forward, moving the chest forward. You may take the arms wide, or if you wanted more, right, bring the arms overhead. Take the arms wide if you're coming up. Bring yourself up. Bring the soles of your feet together. Have your knees wide. Have your hands just behind you and press the thighs apart. So what's stopping you from coming forward is a number of things. It's obviously your spine most likely, but it could be just tension in the inner thighs. And, it's okay if you never get all the way down, right? What I would always consider is, how well am I walking? Can I go upstairs? Can I go downstairs? If I had to run, from something, could I pull myself up from a ledge or a bar, right? Just basic things, because you may actually need those things if, you were in a situation like that. So just bring the hips down if they were up, and have the right hand into the right thigh. Just push into the thigh, and just let the head move away from the shoulder. So if you get into a lot of handstands, it's good to do work on your neck and your shoulders, various ways. Lift the hand, bring the left hand in the left thigh, push into the thigh, resist the pressure of your hand by lifting your thigh up. And then you can come back and just press the legs apart, drive the legs apart, sit nice and tall. And then we're just going to come into a seated position. So you can sit cross-legged. If you had some time and you just want to rest, you could do that. Typically with this class, I don't do that just because It's lunchtime for many people, and I feel like if you got to be really sharp today, say you're writing or you're studying in some form or you got a business meeting, I'd save my relaxation for the evening, or my meditation, for the evening. That's just how I do things, but I have the time in the morning or the afternoon for my practice. I'm definitely relaxing at some level. So I hope these classes are helping you. I love teaching them. So let me know how they're going. Send me videos if you are struggling with something. It's very easy to get over that hump if you have some a second person in helping you in terms of how to structure things or how to realign things. And say you've been doing this for a while and it's just kind of getting old, pick up a different pose. For like a month or two, what I'll do is I'll focus on something and then I'll focus on something else, and I'll always recycle things so that it's rare that I'm doing the same practice every day. I do it that way so that it gets really familiar for people, and then it's more digestible. But then I'm very much into variety and complexity, because that's what's going to keep you sharp and keeping you a better practitioner, a better person. So again, all my information is on my website if you want to make a donation today, if you want to sign up for other classes, or you want to learn more about me. All my information is at jonwittyoga.com. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful weekend if I don't see you. Much love to all of you. Namaste.